Imagine you are in a room with many people you know well. There are 60 friends and coworkers around you. But then you see that all of them are hiding knives under their clothes. This is how Julius Caesar felt on March 15th, 44 BC. This chapter will take you to that scary moment in a Roman building when he was killed. Caesar was the most powerful man in the world. How did he die next to a statue of his greatest enemy? His death was a big surprise. It happened because of disagreements in politics and a shocking act of betrayal. This event changed the world forever. We will look at the deep political tension that changed history. 60 senators, important Roman leaders, were involved. They stood around Caesar in a Roman meeting place and stabbed him many times. The man who had won many wars and became a dictator for life was dead. His blood was at the bottom of a statue of Pompey, his old friend and rival. The people who killed Caesar thought they were saving Rome. They believed they were doing a good thing for their country. But what they thought would happen next was very different from what actually happened. They were wrong. Instead of saving Rome, they actually ended its old way of government. This story is about that day and what led to it and what came after. It talks about power and its problems. It shows how people with good ideas can make big mistakes. Even the best plans can go very wrong. This old story still feels important today.
It makes us think about power, friendship, and secrets. To understand why these people killed him, we need to first learn about Caesar's amazing rise to power. He became very strong. What made him so powerful that his own friends felt he had to be destroyed? This is a question we will explore. We will see how one man changed so much that even those close to him believed he needed to be stopped. 2. A strong man rises. Julius Caesar was born into an old family, the Julii. This family was noble, but not very rich or powerful in Rome. Caesar had to work hard to find his own way in the world. He started his career like many Roman men, by serving in the army and then as a lawyer. He was elected to important jobs, showing that he wanted much more influence than others. He did not follow the usual path quietly. Around 60 BC, Caesar made a special agreement with two other powerful men, Crassus and Pompey. This was called the First Triumvirate. They promised to help each other in politics, making sure they all got what they wanted without fighting. This informal group held a lot of power in Rome for several years. The Roman Senate, which had spent hundreds of years trying to stop any one person from getting too strong, found it hard to stop these three men. In 59 BC, Caesar became a consul. This was a very high position. During this time, he challenged the Senate's power. He made laws that helped common people, like giving land to the poor.
He often did this by ignoring the Senate. These actions made him very popular with many Romans, but they made the rich and powerful elites very angry. They felt he was breaking the old rules of Rome. But it was his military campaigns in Gaul that made Caesar truly famous and strong. Gaul is where modern-day France, Belgium, and parts of other countries are today. He led his army there for 8 long and bloody years. He showed great brilliance as a general, winning many difficult battles. He greatly expanded Rome's land. He even invaded Britain and built a huge bridge across the Rhine River. These wars made him incredibly rich from all the spoils. More importantly, he built a strong bond with his soldiers. They had fought side by side for many years, sharing hardships and victories. His army was fiercely loyal to him personally. While fighting, he wrote books about his wars, a clever way to tell the Roman people about his great victories and keep them supporting him. He was a hero to the poor, but a nightmare to the rich. By 51 BC, Caesar had conquered Gaul. He was incredibly powerful, very wealthy, and commanded a huge, loyal army. The Roman elites grew more worried. They saw him becoming too strong and acting like he was above the laws. He did not seem to care about the old rules that protected the Republic. So, in 49 BC, the Senate gave Caesar a strict order. They told him to leave his military command and come back to Rome as a normal citizen.
This was a trap designed to destroy him. Without his army to protect him, his enemies in the Senate could easily put him on trial for his past actions and take away all his power. Would Caesar give up everything he had worked for and obey the Senate? Or would he choose to risk burning the Republic to the ground by refusing their order? 3. A big choice. Caesar now faced a very big choice. The Roman government, called the Senate, told him to give up his army and come back to Rome as a normal citizen. If he did this, his enemies could try to punish him for things he did before. He stood by a small river called the Rubicon. This river was the sacred border between his army's land and Roman Italy. No general was allowed to bring his army across it. To cross meant starting a war against his own country. It was an act of treason. Caesar thought for a moment. Then he said, "The die is cast." He led his soldiers across the river. There was no turning back now. This bold move started a terrible civil war. He quickly fought against his old friend and rival, Pompey. Many battles took place across the Roman lands. Caesar and his army were very strong and fast. They won many victories. At the Battle of Pharsalus, Caesar finally beat Pompey's forces. Pompey ran away to Egypt to find safety. But in Egypt, some people killed Pompey and cut off his head. They thought Caesar would be happy to see his rival's head. But when Caesar saw it, he cried.
He had defeated Pompey, but he did not want him to die this way. After winning the war, Caesar came back to Rome. He had consolidated his power. The Senate gave him the title of dictator. At first, it was for a short time, but then in 44 BC, they named him dictator for life. This meant he would rule forever. He was like an autocrat. Caesar began to change Rome in many ways. He created a new calendar, which is much like the one we use today. He changed laws and helped poor people by giving them land. He made the Senate larger and gave more people Roman citizenship. He sat on a golden throne in the Senate. He had coins made with his face on them. He even made his birthday a public holiday. These actions showed his great power. For many in the Senate, this was the final provocation. A quiet anger began to grow in the shadows, waiting. 4. The secret plan. After Caesar became dictator for life, many felt uneasy about his great power. Why would his pardoned enemies and trusted friends secretly plan his brutal murder? The deadly plot began with two men, Cassius Longinus and Marcus Brutus. Cassius was a smart military leader who disliked Caesar's power. He was the practical mastermind of the secret group, planning details. Brutus was different.
He felt conflicted about Caesar. Brutus came from an old Roman family, known for expelling kings. It was even rumored he was Caesar's biological son. Caesar had pardoned Brutus after the Civil War.
But Brutus deeply believed in the Roman Republic. He feared Caesar was destroying it. His involvement gave the conspiracy moral weight. On February 22, 44 BC, Cassius and Brutus met secretly. They discussed Caesar acting like a king and decided to act. Soon, about 60 senators joined their deadly conspiracy. They recruited trusted men near 40 years old, enough to act, but few enough to keep the secret safe. They debated where to kill Caesar, finally choosing a Senate meeting at the Theater of Pompey. The chosen date was March 15, 44 BC, known as the Ides of March. Caesar had guards, making the plan risky. But in October of 45 BC, Caesar made a crucial decision. He dismissed his Spanish bodyguards. He thought his power and popularity made him safe from attack. It was a tragic irony. This left him completely exposed. The great leader had removed his own protection. The trap was set. Will the conspirators succeed before Caesar discovers their plot? 5. Bad signs. The days leading up to the 15th of March were heavy with strange signs. It felt as if the world itself was trying to warn Julius Caesar. A fortune-teller, known as a soothsayer, had famously told him to beware that specific day, the Ides of March. At first, Caesar did not take this prophecy very seriously, perhaps thinking it was just an old superstition. But then other bad signs began to appear. Priests examining sacrificial animals found some with no hearts.
This was seen as a very bad omen, a clear sign of coming disaster. People also reported seeing strange lights in the Roman sky at night, adding to the growing sense of unease among the public. These strange events made many citizens feel deeply worried and afraid for their great leader. The most personal and frightening warning came from Caesar's own wife, Calpurnia. The night before the Ides of March, Calpurnia had a terrible nightmare. She dreamt that she was holding the murdered body of Caesar in her arms and was crying uncontrollably for him. This dream filled her with intense fear. The next morning, she begged Caesar, with tears in her eyes, not to go to the Senate meeting. She pleaded with him to stay safe at home. Because of Calpurnia's dream and all the other omens of danger, Caesar actually made a surprising decision. He chose to stay home. He told his servants to cancel the Senate meeting for that day. For a brief, extraordinary moment, the entire murder plot was in great danger of failing. History itself seemed to balance on a knife's edge, as Caesar was prepared to avoid his fate. But then, Decimus Brutus Albinus arrived at Caesar's house. Decimus was one of the main conspirators, but Caesar trusted him deeply and considered him a friend. Decimus saw Caesar's hesitation and knew he had to act quickly. He convinced Caesar that if he stayed home because of a woman's dream, the senators would surely mock him. He said Caesar would look weak and easily influenced.
Decimus also reminded Caesar that the Senate was waiting to give him new, important honors and powers that day. Caesar's pride was touched. He did not want to appear weak or be laughed at by his peers. He listened to Decimus, his friend, and changed his mind. Despite Calpurnia's tearful pleas and his own lingering doubts, he decided to go to the Senate after all. He left his house and walked towards the theater of Pompey, unknowingly walking straight into the deadly trap set by the very man who had just persuaded him to leave. The dark day. The air in Rome was thick with tension on the Ides of March. Julius Caesar walked to the theater of Pompey, not knowing what awaited him. How could 60 men plan a perfect assassination in a public place? It was a careful, deadly plan. As Caesar entered the great building, his loyal friend Mark Antony was stopped. One of the conspirators kept Antony busy with talk outside. This left Caesar without his strongest protector. Inside, other senators, who were part of the secret plan, gathered close to Caesar. They acted like they had something important to say. One man, Tillius Cimber, came forward with a request. Other conspirators moved in, pretending to support Cimber's words. Suddenly, the attack began. Daggers flashed in the light. The room filled with chaos. The killers surrounded Caesar, stabbing him again and again. It was a frenzied melee. In the rush, some of the attackers even cut each other by mistake.
Caesar received around 23 stab wounds. He tried to fight back for a moment, but then he saw the face of Brutus, a man he trusted deeply. At that moment, Caesar stopped. He pulled his toga over his face. He wanted to die with dignity. He fell at the base of a statue of Pompey, his old rival. The bloody deed was done. The senators who were not part of the plot screamed and ran away in fear. The killers, their knives red with blood, rushed outside into the streets of Rome. They shouted about freedom and the end of a tyrant. They expected the people to cheer loudly. They thought the citizens would thank them for saving the Republic. But instead of cheers, they heard something else. There was a terrible, deep silence. 7. A big mistake. The killers of Caesar made a big mistake. They had planned the murder of Julius Caesar very carefully. Every detail of the attack was set, but they did not plan for what would happen in the days and weeks aftermath. This was their biggest error. The senators believed that by killing Caesar, they were saving the Roman Republic. They thought the people would celebrate their freedom. However, they were wrong about how the Roman people felt. For many ordinary Romans, Caesar was not a dictator, but a champion. He had introduced many popular reforms. He had given land to poor soldiers and canceled some debts. He had also made changes to the tax system that helped the lower classes. The senators, mostly rich and powerful men, did not understand how much support Caesar had among the common people. When the news of his death spread, many Romans felt a deep sadness and anger, not joy. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal friend and a clever political tactician, saw this public grief. He used Caesar's funeral in the Roman Forum to turn sadness into rage. During his funeral speech, Antony skillfully showed the crowd Caesar's blood-soaked toga. He spoke about Caesar's great deeds. Then Antony read Caesar's last will. The will included generous provisions for every Roman citizen, giving them money. This act of kindness from the dead Caesar made the crowd furious at his killers. The weeping crowd quickly changed into a violent mob. They seized wooden benches and other things from the forum to build an open-air funeral pyre for Caesar's body. As the flames rose, the rioters attacked the homes of the conspirators. Brutus and Cassius, realizing the danger, had to flee from Rome that very night to save their lives.
their plan had gone terribly wrong. The conspirators believed that with Caesar gone, there was no one strong enough to take his place. They thought the power vacuum would allow the Republic to return to its old ways. But they had ignored a seemingly unimportant person. In his will, Caesar had named his great-nephew, an 18-year-old boy called Octavian, as his main heir. Octavian was sickly and appeared very frail.
Most people, including powerful figures like Mark Antony and the famous speaker Cicero, underestimated him. They saw him as just the young, weak relative who could be easily controlled. They thought he was a joke. Could this underestimated teenager, who everyone dismissed, become the ultimate danger to the men who had killed Caesar? The end of freedom. The men who killed Caesar thought they were saving Rome's republic, but their actions had a different result. Instead of bringing back freedom, they started a long time of fighting and sadness. The killers had not planned what would happen next. They believed the people would cheer, but Rome was filled with silence and fear. Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal friend, gave a powerful speech at Caesar's funeral. He showed the crowd Caesar's bloody clothes and read his will. Caesar had left money to every Roman citizen. This made the crowd very angry at the assassins. Brutus and Cassius, the leaders of the plot, had to run away from Rome to save their lives. Then a new person appeared. Caesar's will named his 18-year-old great-nephew, Octavian, as his main heir. Most people saw Octavian as a weak boy. Antony and other powerful men did not think he was a threat. But they were wrong. Octavian was smart and strong. He slowly gathered his own army and became very powerful. Bloody civil wars followed. Octavian and Antony joined forces to get revenge for Caesar's death. They hunted down and killed many of their enemies.
Brutus and Cassius fought against Octavian and Antony in a big battle in Greece. They lost the battle. To avoid capture, both Brutus and Cassius chose to commit suicide. This was a sad end for the men who said they fought for Rome's freedom. Octavian continued to gain power. He defeated Antony later and became the most powerful man in Rome. He changed his name to Augustus. Augustus became the first true Roman emperor. The Roman Republic, which the assassins wanted to save, was now truly dead. Instead, an empire began that lasted for hundreds of years. This was a great irony. The murder meant to stop a king created an empire that ruled for centuries. Caesar's assassination changed everything. It created a new way of ruling that shaped Europe and the world for a very long time. The Julian calendar, which Caesar started, is still mostly what we use today. This violent day reminds us about power, freedom, and the unexpected results of big choices. The men who killed Caesar thought they were saving the Republic, but they caused its final end and started a new age of monarchy. What do you think? Did the assassins really understand the dangers of their actions?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world,